Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A. We're just going to do a front yard garden tour. Yet again, a bit of a hodgepodge. That's what I tend to do as I wait for the perennials to fill in. I just kind of go wild and hodgepodge it. Over here, we've got, well, we have this yew that I need to trim yet again. Mature yew. This one I'm going to have to really keep size checked. It has grown a ton since we moved in to the house. But anyway, we got this container. We've got Dichondra Silver Falls, a blue Scaevola, and Senecio Angel Wings. I did a line of Americana dark red geranium here along the border. This is the Amsonia String Theory, now getting to be its mature size. I'm excited for the yellow color, beautiful butterscotch yellow color of this in the fall. And one of you commented that because it has these cool seed heads that I leave on, just really neat looking, neat. But I hadn't noticed any self-seeding of it. And one of you said that your seeds everywhere. And now that I'm looking, it kind of, I do see some seedlings down there that I think are Amsonia. They kind of look a little bit like the cedar seedlings that sprout up for me, but I think they are Amsonia. So thank you for that. I will leave those be. We have a bunch of heuchera down here. This is a coleus called Henna. Really pretty color on that. I recommend that one too. That hasn't bloomed yet this year. Late bloomer, which is nice to not have to constantly deadhead. And then the blue shadow Fothergilla. I like this. You kind of have all your colors here. Your red, green, blue, and yellow combination. I know Laura on Garden Answer talks about that a lot. Well, that's what her mom always said, Susan. That's not a new concept by any means. I'm sure Susan really learned or took note of that in her career and as a gardener. My hose is snaking around. This is what I have to do. Oh, I did get this Kufia, Vermillionaire Kufia on clearance, so I popped that in there. But I snake my hose around and hook it up. I have a little timer over here on the side yard to get everything watered, and a soaker hose kind of doubled up because this area doesn't get a lot of rainfall. It gets some. And this week, when we had big storms that were blowing in from the west, it blew a lot of rain into the garden bed, but it's pretty. We've got really deep soffits, so it's pretty shielded by those eaves. So anyway, I did plant up. I said in my last tour that the Garden City greenhouses, garden tents in parking lots around town were doing a whole flat. They're 4-pack annuals. You get a whole flat for $5. So I went and got a bunch of salvia. I had gotten a few things already, some verbena. I just got a bunch of random stuff. Dusty Miller. I also had picked up annuals from Fratelloni's that I popped in here, like the grasses. Kind of an experiment too. I did a sweet potato vine towards the back. I would love to grow those in here. Normally I have balsam. That's what this is. Now blooming. Filling this whole area. And there are some coming up. There are some that sprouted. But normally this area is full. I mean, I turn on the soaker hose and I get tons of it coming up. And by this time, it is about that big. But I think because this is like become a litter box for the cats, particularly the feral cats, particularly over the winter months, I think they've just disturbed too many of the seeds that were in here. And so I didn't get a lot of sprouting this year. It wasn't very successful. But they've continued to use this as a litter box, so I wanted to fill it with stuff to deter them from doing that. So anyway, I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to just plant a bunch of random stuff and see what can handle the dry conditions and what can't do it over here, what needs more water. Then I can give it, of course, it's right next to the foundation, so I'm not going to deeply water. That's why I have the hose. I run it for I have the soaker hose, and I only run it for 15 minutes at a time, just to give things a little drink. Just to keep them alive, because obviously water next to foundations is a bad mix. So anyway, thought I'd experiment with that. Of course, some areas towards the front get more moisture naturally. I also put dianthus in here. This patch of salvia doing well. I'm curious too, like this rush grass, I've had that survive over winter for me when we had a mild winter. And this is like the warmest area in my garden, right up against the house, shielded between the two houses. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have not a severe winter, if that survives. I did come and pull back all the strawberry runners back here that were encroaching on the garden. Some of the clearance echinacea I was going to put back here too and just expand this a little bit more. So for now it's full of color. Hopefully it keeps the ferrules out. And it was pretty cheap. This end I had kind of planted. I have dill that seeds itself. Of course, more balsam over here that seeded themselves. These marigolds had seeded themselves way in the back in my raised beds, and I transplanted them earlier this year. And I have one, I used to have Verbena bonariensis all over here, and there are still some that come up. So I always have to be careful when I'm pulling in the spring for weeds so I don't accidentally pull something. I should put more of these seeds out because I love the bonariensis mixed in with stuff. I just got the hose out of the way for mowing the lawn. I can put that back down now. You can see it's kind of crushing stuff a little bit. Still beautiful, tall, straight blooms on the Patriot Hosta. Disclaimer, I'm 99% sure that's Patriot Hosta. These are doing well. I'm going to plant some of those clearance echinacea that I got at Cub over here. Or not clearance, the sale stuff. Look at these little beetles. These guys love pollen. I don't know what they are. I haven't looked them up. But they're always all over everything, all the pollinator stuff. These are annual Rudbeckia that I grew here last year, and they seeded themselves this year. Mixed in with echinacea that I had planted last year that I got on clearance late season. This is a Siberian Iris, Caesar's brother. We've got 2 opening act phlox starting to put on a little flush of bloom. These get part, I need to move that one up so it's more in the sun. These get part shade, so they're not strong rebloomers, but they do put out a second flush typically. They just have a longer lull without any color. This is an experiment. So far, so good. I have been giving these chelated iron. These are watermelon punch super bells. I haven't ever grown Calibrachoa planted in the ground, so it's an experiment. Once I can get them on clearance, I figure I might as well give it a try and see how they do for, science's sake. These are I think they're called Sunstar is the line. They're Pentas from Proven Winners. These are the pink ones. Got a couple of those on clearance. We've got that was newly planted, so that'll get bigger. Lemon Jade Sedum. Snapdragons are just about to crack color. I bet in my garden tour next week, next couple weeks, they'll have fuller blooms. This is a perennial Artemisia that I do expect to take up quite a bit of space when it is mature. For now, that is where I have to plant annuals in between. The salvia is finally starting to open blooms. That is the Rockin' Deep Purple from Proven Winners. I have an annual salvia back there. That is the Spanish Flare Honeymoon. I did deadhead the blooms on that finally. Hellebore. That's my favorite hellebore. We also have, I think that one's called Molly's White. Hellebore with the variegated foliage. And then we have an Island Breeze hosta and a Blue Angel, big Blue Angel one, kind of hiding back there. The hydrangeas are 2 Little Quickfire, now getting their pink color. I had a line of 3, Astilbe there. Those have white blooms. 2 of them I transplanted because they just got fried to a crisp every year, but we had a couple drought years. That one has thrived there, so I'm just going to leave it. And the other 2 can just stay where I transplanted them. That is I have a young lungwort that's not full size and a ghost fern. And then some Solomon seal in there. Also a couple onyx heuchera. I should get a 3rd one of those. Brunnera, I don't remember. It might be Sea Heart. I deadheaded this mums. That's a hardy mum. That blooms pink pretty much all summer as long as I keep it deadheaded. Peachy pink. We've got some annual begonias. These I grew from seed. Well, this one for sure is Arizona apricot. It was in a packet of Arizona. Both were Arizona apricot seed packet for Gaillardia, but this one, the blooms are a little bit different, so who knows what that is. Either way, it's pretty. Super Tuny Mini Vista White. These are all the annuals were on clearance over here. Another, whatchamacallit, Calibrachoa, the experiment to see if that one survives. This one I deadheaded. This is a red salvia. And then this, I need to grow this in more places next year. I got this one on clearance. It's called Mighty Mosaic Coleus. I'm really liking the coloration on that. And the habit seems nice too. I still think I should probably move that further back even. The Curly Fries hosta probably gets too much sun here. That was newly planted this year though, so I'll give it a couple years, see how it does in that spot. When they're brand new, I think they tend to burn more than when they're mature. That's just my theory. I got a clearance. I shouldn't have to say clearance every time, but it's just, that's the way my brain works. Sparkling Amethyst Verbena popped in there. This shrub is starting to sprout a little more on the backside. That had a grass that was kind of crushed up against it that I removed. Weigela, My Monet Purple Shades. I just love the variegation. It has pretty lavender blooms on it, but even if it doesn't bloom, I just like the variegated foliage on that one. Then we've got more of the bronze leaf red begonias with some creeping Jenny in my little planter. This planter is disintegrating. Of course, this was here years before we moved in. I like having a planter box here, but we're trying to think of what to do with this light post too, because the sensor, it would normally turn, it has a light sensor in there where when it gets dark enough, it turns on. And that is broken, so it just turns, it's just on all the time, so we had to switch it off. I miss having a light up here. This is original to the house. The house was built in 1959. So I would like to keep a lamp post, and I don't know if we should replace the whole thing. I would like to paint it maybe so it doesn't look so dirty. I don't know what to do. I'm looking for ideas. Not anytime soon, but down the line. And either way, this planter box is going to go away. So I don't know if I want to replace it with something and put another planter box, or if I'd rather turn this into a garden bed with a path going through. I don't know. And just plant things around on the ground. That would probably be a smarter idea. Anyway, lots to think about. We've got the 3 Heucherella Solar Eclipse. These little violas seed themselves around, so I just let them go. Got these boxwood that came with the house. Just showed the, well, I show these every time I'm up here, but these wax begonias, red and white, and creeping Jenny or Lysomachia at the bottom. And then I did plant some more clearance stuff over here. Picked up a few more of these wax begonias and just popped them in. Those are really easy because they can take full sun to full shade, and begonias don't like a lot of moisture. They don't like to be real wet, so they're good for dry areas. This is an Alternanthera that I had picked up on clearance to use in a planter and then didn't use it, so I just threw it in there for a little brightness. Some second bloom, a couple of random ones on this sedum. The only thing I don't like is these always split open, and I don't know if that's just the variety. It probably is, versus the fact that it gets more shade. But I picked up some more Dianthus to put in here. These are the annual Dianthus. There's a couple Vinca in there too, like mixed variety Vinca. I have had Dianthus come back for me. These annuals are, I think, sometimes hardy, so we'll see what happens here. If not, I'll just probably plant more next year because they did really well. These I started from seed. This is a little Pizzazz Nano Yellow Portulaca, and then this is a Creeping Jenny, the Gold Dust, not Creeping Jenny, Alyssum Gold Dust. It's supposed to be lemon yellow blooms. I've grown that 2 years now from seed, and I've never seen a single bloom, so I don't know. But I have a lot of annual or perennial sedum in here, along with the beautiful Russian sage. I would like to plant more Russian sage in the backyard. This variety is called Crazy Blue. Recommend it. highly. It's taller than what the tag says. I mean, it's probably 4 or 5 feet tall at its tallest tip of the bloom. But it stays more upright and more compact. There are 3 plants in this grouping. Some Autumn Charm Sedum, which is a Sport of Autumn Joy, a variegated version. So we've got more Dianthus over here. I just picked up some of these on the flat sale. I do have a Serendipity Allium, kind of struggling to hold on. I had 3 of them. Well, I had 2 and I divided one. And they really were not coming back. This spot is rough. I don't know. So if the Dianthus does here, I'll just do that every year. And I might transplant the Serendipity because I cannot get perennials to take in this area. Years ago, there was a tree here. When we moved in, it was just a giant circle of landscape rock. I think the previous owner did a planter in the middle from time to time, but even the tree roots were rotted out. So I dug out all the landscape rock by hand and wanted to do a rock garden. I did add a bunch of sand to the soil because we have very heavy clay. I don't know if that did anything, but anyway, some stuff does well, some doesn't. We've got Sempervivum in here. Don't ask me the variety. Actually, that one's Gold Nugget. You can ask me about that one, but that's the only one I remember because it's been so many years. And they have come and gone. I've got more Vinca. This is a lavender, an Experiment. That's a Zone 5 lavender, which theoretically is hardy here. But also with clay soil, they don't love that. This is I think it's called Sunseeker's Dazzling Plum. I want to say it's something plum is the name of this sedum. I actually have 2 of them. The second one, Struggled. That's the original one I planted. Really pretty. And then it has bright pink blooms too. Sedum, I love that they bloom right about when the queen bees, so bumblebees, at the end of the season, when winter is coming or fall is nigh, the queen lays a whole bunch of queen eggs. And then those newly hatched queens go out, collect a whole bunch of nectar, and then they create they're a little studio apartment for themselves. They find a little place to nest and overwinter and hibernate. Just a single twin bed apartment they build for themselves until the following spring. And as then they emerge and they find a place for permanent nest and start laying a bunch of eggs and create their new hive. And all of the other bumblebees, the worker bees, they die. They only live that 1 year. It's just the queens that overwinter, so, or for the most part, I think. So anyway, we've got I kind of forget that I planted that heliotrope there, but it's really cute. So the sedum is blooming when all those newly hatched queens are out collecting all their nectar and getting ready to hibernate. So I love that about like the Plum Dazzler, the Autumn Charm. So make sure you plant things that have nectar. Some flowers like Vinca, those annual Vinca, those don't have any nectar. They're hybridized to where they don't actually feed any pollinators. So try to be mindful of that when planting your garden. Make food for the pollinators too for the whole season. I had gotten some, once those went on clearance, some double up red begonias. Those can take a lot more sun than the double up pink or double up white, I have found. The double up white and pink tend to fry when I've planted them in the sun and get real crispy looking, but the red ones do great. And then I've got some snapdragons. All the snapdragons I grew from seed, so they're kind of draping over that. Again, I deadheaded, so those will put on more blooms. Got another sedum and a big old dandelion down here. The crazy blue Russian sage, it does reseed, but not very heavily. I find seedlings here and there, but it's not like it's seeding itself all over the place like crazy, so it's pretty easy to manage if you don't want it to spread. Or if you do, you'll still have some crazy blue seedlings. Sometimes it depends on the winter. Sometimes it sprouts from the stems. I always cut it back in the spring. Sometimes it'll throw out new buds on the old stems, and sometimes it sprouts from the ground if those stems die. So you just never know. And then we'll come over here, take a peek at the smoke bush tree. Oh, I see a dry branch randomly up there. Probably won't bother. Well, a couple of them. I had another dry branch on that limb, and now I'm just noticing a bunch of them. curious. We had one branch break off and snap when we got really strong storms last summer. So I'll keep an eye on that. I wonder if that branch was the one that it landed on. I'll have to keep an eye on that and see if that one dies too, or if it's just a piece of it. I don't know. Anyway, that was here when we moved in. It has grown quite a bit, and I've said before, it is quite the chore to keep it trimmed in the spring. I only have to trim it once per year, thank goodness. But all those branches, it's very soft wood. So I don't even think using like one of those pole trimmers that's like a chainsaw would work, because the branches are so bendy. I think if you were going to trim it, you'd have to get up there on a ladder and hold the branch still. I could clip the smaller ones with like the cutter style. I tried using like a manual saw pole cutter on it, and that was useless. It just bent. Very soft wood. So, but it is easy to trim at least because of that. And you can see the gap in the middle starting to fill in now with new branches kind of being pushed out here. That was where we had a large branch die. So, all right, well, that's it. You know, the front yard isn't as exciting as the back. It's a little bit smaller. I have plans down the line to keep adding, because, I mean, you know how it goes. You just keep wanting to add more gardens. Just can't help yourself. I have a little bee balm left there that is Pardon My Cerise by Proven Winners. I moved it to the back because it is very prone to powdery mildew. I had it in the front, but then it just looked terrible. So now I'll just enjoy the hot pink blooms in the back. I just see it is putting out more buds, so I'll have a few more blooms. So, all right. Well, that's it. Just a little front garden and side garden tour. I'll probably do my container garden next week or the week after, just to give some updates on that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Please subscribe.